We'll start with the news here in Washington, because this afternoon the House plans to vote on a resolution that would compel the Justice Department to release all of its records related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The measure, which requires approval from 2/3 of the chamber because of how they're voting on it, is expected to pass with overwhelming, if not unanimous, support. Top Republicans say they expect everyone will vote for it, after President Trump's sudden reversal on the issue gave any remaining holdouts the go-ahead. And frankly, according to my reporting, it's not like they needed much of a thumbs up. They were going to do it anyway. If the bill does pass the House as expected, it will head to the Senate. And if it passes there, the president now says he'll actually sign it into law.
So I'm for I don't, they can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us.
Okay, so we need to talk about what just dropped. And honestly, this one's bad, like really bad. Fresh documents just hit the public, and they're tying President Trump back to Jeffrey Epstein in ways that are, well, let's just say the timing couldn't be worse. We're talking over 20,000 pages of emails, witness statements, and legal memos that were just released by the House Oversight Committee. And yeah, Mar-a-Lago is right at the center of it all. Now, before you click away thinking this is just another recycled Epstein story, hold on, because what makes this different is the new evidence. We're not rehashing old headlines here. This is fresh material that's been sitting in sealed files, and it just became public this week. The stuff in these documents is raising questions that Trump's team really doesn't want to answer right now. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
Donald Trump completely reversed his position last night, saying that every Republican in the House should vote to release the Epstein files, which means logically that every Republican in the Senate should vote to release the Epstein files. And then today, Donald Trump was asked if he would sign a bill delivered to him after passage in the House and the Senate to release the Epstein files, and he said this.
You urged House Republicans to vote in favor of this Epstein release bill they're going to vote on tomorrow. I just want to be super clear on your position. Do you want to see that pass the Senate? Would you sign that bill if it gets to your desk?
I do want to. Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. Some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. But they were with him all the time. I wasn't. I wasn't at all.
Here's the thing. Trump has always maintained that he cut ties with Epstein years ago. He said publicly that Epstein was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep, that he didn't like the guy, that they weren't really friends. And for a while, that narrative held. But these new emails, they're complicating that story in a major way. According to reports from Al Jazeera and the BBC, some of these documents show Trump spending hours at Epstein's house. And we're not talking about quick business meetings or random social events. We're talking extended visits, interactions with young women who worked at Mar-a-Lago Spa, and a whole network of connections that Trump has spent years trying to distance himself from. Can you believe this? Right when Trump's dealing with multiple legal cases, right when his second term is heating up, right when the media is already watching his every move, this lands. It's like the universe has the worst timing, or maybe it's just perfect timing, depending on how you look at it. And here's where it gets even messier. Trump said Epstein was banned from Mar-a-Lago because he tried to steal young women from the spa. That's the official story. He painted himself as the guy who saw through Epstein, who kicked him out, who did the right thing. But now witness statements are adding layers to that narrative that don't exactly make Trump look like the hero of this story. The White House is in full damage control mode right now. They're scrambling to declare Trump innocent, putting out statements, trying to shut down the conversation before it spirals. But here's the problem. When you've got 20,000 pages of documentation, surveillance records, and legal memos all pointing in the same direction, that's not something you can just tweet away. Political analysts are going crazy over this. Independent voters, the ones Trump needs to keep his coalition strong, they're starting to ask questions, and not just soft questions. They want to know what really happened at Mar-a-Lago. They want to know why these documents were sealed for so long. They want to know if there's more that hasn't come out yet. And look, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Trump's already fighting battles over classified documents, obstruction charges, election interference allegations. The list goes on. Now you throw this Epstein connection back into the mix. It's like adding gasoline to a fire that was already out of control. The media is eating this up. CNN, The Washington Post, BBC, Al Jazeera, everyone's running with it. And they're not just reporting facts. They're digging, they're investigating, they're asking follow-up questions that Trump's legal team clearly doesn't want to answer. Here's what's wild about all this. This scandal touches everything. It connects to elite circles, to questions about justice system bias, to cover-ups, to hush deals, to power dynamics that most people only see in movies. And it's all centered around one place, Trump's own private estate. Mar-a-Lago isn't just some random location anymore. It's become ground zero for controversy. First, it was the classified documents raid. Then it was questions about who has access to sensitive areas. Now it's this, connections to one of the most notorious figures in modern history, with evidence suggesting those connections ran deeper than Trump ever admitted. So yeah, this is a big deal. This isn't going away tomorrow. The House Oversight Committee didn't release 20,000 pages just for fun. Congressional investigators are on this. Legal representatives are demanding answers. And the longer Trump's team stays quiet or tries to deflect, the worse it looks. Stick around, because we're about to break down exactly what's in these documents, why they matter, and what this could mean for Trump's presidency moving forward. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. All right, so let's get into the details here, because the surface level stuff, that's shocking enough. But when you dig into what's actually in these documents, it gets so much worse. The House Oversight Committee dropped this bomb on November 14th. Over 20,000 pages. Think about that for a second. That's not a leaked memo. That's not a handful of emails. That's a full archive of communications, interactions, and evidence that's been building for years. And it all revolves around the relationship between Trump and Epstein and what was happening at Mar-a-Lago. Now, here's what most people are missing about this story. Everyone's focused on the Epstein connection, which, yeah, obviously that's huge. But what's flying under the radar is the pattern of behavior these documents reveal. We're not just talking about two rich guys who knew each other. We're talking about a system, a network, a whole operation that was allegedly running out of Trump's private club. According to the BBC report from July, Trump publicly claimed that Epstein tried to steal young women from Mar-a-Lago's spa. That's the word he used, steal, like these were employees being poached for another business. But the new witness statements paint a very different picture. It suggests these young women weren't just employees, they were targets. And both Trump and Epstein knew exactly what was going on. Can you believe this? The spin is that Trump was the victim here, that Epstein was the bad guy trying to corrupt Trump's innocent spa business. But the emails tell a different story. They show coordination, they show awareness, they show Trump spending extended time at Epstein's properties, not just casual acquaintance stuff. Al Jazeera dropped a report on November 12th showing emails where Trump allegedly spent hours at Epstein's house with a victim present. Hours, not a quick hello, not a brief social call. Extended visits where young women were present, where conversations happened, where relationships were built. And all of this is documented in emails that Trump's team clearly didn't want going public. The Washington Post added another layer on November 13th. They reported that Epstein wrote about Trump knowing about sexual abuse. Let that sink in for a moment. Not that Trump participated, not that Trump was directly involved, but that Trump knew, that he was aware, that he had knowledge of what was happening and didn't stop it. And here's where the legal implications get terrifying for Trump. Because if these documents prove Trump had knowledge of abuse and didn't report it, that's not just a PR problem. That's potential criminal liability. That's obstruction. That's cover-up territory. That's the kind of thing that can land you in serious legal trouble. Trump's defense has always been simple. I barely knew the guy. We weren't close. I kicked him out when I found out he was a creep. But these 20,000 pages are systematically destroying that defense. They're showing frequent contact. They're showing coordination. They're showing a relationship that lasted years, not just casual encounters at random social events. And it's not just emails, by the way. There are witness statements. People who worked at Mar-a-Lago, people who saw interactions, people who were there when Trump and Epstein spent time together, people who are now willing to go on record and contradict the official narrative. This is where Trump's legal team is in full panic mode, because you can spin emails, you can claim they're taken out of context, you can argue about interpretation, but witness testimony, that's much harder to dismiss, especially when you've got multiple witnesses all saying the same thing. The White House released a statement trying to shut this down. They said Trump is innocent, that he cooperated with investigations, that he's been cleared of wrongdoing. But here's the problem with that defense. Nobody's actually cleared him. There's no official exoneration. There's no completed investigation that says Trump did nothing wrong. What we have instead is Trump's team saying he did nothing wrong, which, yeah, not exactly convincing. Political analysts are watching this thing explode in real time, because this isn't just about Epstein anymore. This is about trust. This is about what voters are willing to overlook. This is about whether Trump's base will stick with him when the evidence gets this damaging. And look, Trump survived scandals before. We all know that. The guy's made of Teflon when it comes to controversy. But this one's different. This one touches on something that transcends politics. This is about protection of vulnerable people. This is about elite predators. This is about powerful men covering for each other. And that's a scandal that crosses party lines. Independent voters are the ones Trump needs to worry about. His hardcore base, they're probably not going anywhere. But the people in the middle, the ones who voted for him because of economic policy or border security or whatever, they're starting to ask questions. They're starting to wonder if maybe there's something here that's too big to ignore. CNN's been all over this, and they're not letting up. They're interviewing legal experts who are saying this could reopen investigations. They're talking to former prosecutors who think there's enough here for new charges. They're connecting dots between this scandal and Trump's other legal problems. Because that's the real danger for Trump right now. It's not just this scandal in isolation, it's how this scandal connects to everything else. The classified documents case, that was about Trump's handling of sensitive material at Mar-a-Lago. The obstruction charges, those are about Trump allegedly covering up evidence and lying to investigators. Now you add in this Epstein connection, and suddenly there's a pattern of using Mar-a-Lago as a private kingdom where rules don't apply, a pattern of covering up inconvenient truths, a pattern of denying reality until the evidence becomes overwhelming. Swiss media outlet Bluewin ran a piece calling these explosive emails that put Trump under serious pressure. And they're not wrong. This is pressure that's building from multiple directions. Congressional investigators want answers. Legal teams are preparing cases. Media outlets are digging for more information. And the public is paying attention in a way they haven't for some of Trump's other scandals. Here's what's really scary for Trump's team. These 20,000 pages, they're probably not everything. When you see a document dump this big, it usually means there's more that hasn't been released. Maybe it's still under seal. Maybe it's being held back for legal reasons. Maybe it's waiting for the right moment. But history tells us that when document dumps start, they don't usually stop at just one. And Mar-a-Lago itself has become a symbol now. It's not just Trump's home. It's not just a fancy club. It's the epicenter of scandal after scandal. It's where classified documents were found. It's where Trump allegedly hosted Epstein. It's where all these questionable activities supposedly took place. And the more investigations focus on that location, the more secrets are likely to come out. So where does this leave us? Trump's facing renewed questions about his past. His legal team is scrambling to contain the damage. Congressional investigators are ramping up pressure. And the media has fresh material to work with for weeks or months to come. This isn't going away, not tomorrow, not next week, not until every one of those 20,000 pages has been examined, every witness has been interviewed, and every connection has been explored. And that's what should terrify Trump's inner circle right now. Okay, so let's break this down into what actually matters. Because there's a lot of noise around this story, and we need to cut through it and focus on the facts that really count here. First, what are we actually looking at here? We've got over 20,000 pages of documents that were just released by the House Oversight Committee. These include emails between Trump and Epstein, witness statements from people who worked at Mar-a-Lago, legal memos about alleged cover-ups, and surveillance records showing interactions that Trump has spent years trying to downplay. The core accusation is simple but devastating. Trump had a much closer relationship with Jeffrey Epstein than he's ever admitted. And that relationship involved activities at Mar-a-Lago that raised serious questions about what Trump knew, when he knew it, and what he did about it. This isn't speculation anymore. This is documented evidence that's now part of the public record. And once something becomes part of the public record like this, you can't just wish it away or pretend it doesn't exist. It's there, it's permanent, and it's damaging as hell. Second, why does this matter right now? Trump is in his second term as president. He's not running another campaign. He's not trying to win over voters for some future election. He's supposed to be governing, but instead, he's dealing with scandal after scandal, legal case after legal case, investigation after investigation. And this Epstein connection is potentially the most damaging of all of them. Because here's the thing, you can defend policy decisions. You can argue about classified documents being a technicality or some kind of administrative error. You can claim election interference charges are political persecution from your enemies. But Epstein, there's no good spin for Epstein. There's no way to make that association look innocent or acceptable or just a misunderstanding. And the more evidence that comes out tying Trump to Epstein, the harder it becomes for even his most loyal supporters to defend him. We're talking about a line that most people won't cross, no matter how much they support Trump's policies or his political agenda. Third, who benefits from this story blowing up the way it has? Obviously, Trump's political opponents are having a field day with all of this. Democrats in Congress are using this to hammer Trump on his fitness for office and his judgment and his character. Media outlets that have been critical of Trump are running with this story nonstop, giving it wall-to-wall coverage day after day. And legal teams working on various cases against Trump now have fresh material to work with, new angles to explore, new witnesses to interview. But it's not just about politics and partisan advantage. This story matters because it touches on fundamental questions of justice and accountability. If powerful men like Trump and Epstein were operating a network at Mar-a-Lago, if they were targeting young women, if they were covering up abuse and paying people off to stay quiet, that's not a political issue. That's a criminal issue. That's a moral issue. That's something that should concern every person regardless of their party affiliation or whether they voted for Trump or not. Fourth, what comes next in all of this? That's the million-dollar question, right? Because we're still in the early stages of this thing unfolding. The documents just dropped. Investigations are just ramping up. Witness testimonies are still being collected and verified. This is going to play out over weeks and months, not days. Trump's legal team is going to fight this hard. You can count on that. They're going to claim the documents are out of context or misinterpreted. They're going to attack the credibility of witnesses and try to discredit anyone who comes forward. They're going to argue that this is all a politically motivated hit job timed specifically to damage Trump's presidency and undermine his authority. And you know what? Some people will believe that defense, Trump's hardcore supporters will probably stand by him no matter what comes out. But the problem for Trump is the evidence itself. It's not just speculation. It's not just rumors from anonymous sources. It's documented. It's in writing. It's corroborated by multiple sources who don't even know each other. And that makes it much harder to dismiss or explain away. Congressional investigators are already talking about expanding their probe into this whole mess. They want to know more about Mar-a-Lago's operations and how it was run during those years. They want to know who had access to the club and what kind of vetting was done. They want to know if there were other victims who haven't come forward yet. They want to know if there's been ongoing obstruction to hide the truth from investigators and the public. And every one of those questions opens up new avenues for investigation, new subpoenas, new document requests, new witness testimonies. The legal implications here are absolutely massive. When you think about the full scope, if prosecutors can prove Trump had knowledge of Epstein's activities and didn't report them to authorities, that's potential criminal liability right there. If they can prove Trump participated in cover-ups or hush money deals to keep people quiet, that's obstruction of justice. If they can prove Trump lied to investigators about his relationship with Epstein or what he knew, that's perjury or making false statements to federal officials. Any one of those charges could be devastating to a sitting president. All of them together, that's existential threat territory for Trump and his entire administration. And let's talk about the political fallout beyond just the legal stuff. Because even if Trump never faces criminal charges over this, even if his legal team manages to tie everything up in court battles for years and delay any real accountability, the damage to his reputation is real and it's happening right now. Independent voters are paying attention to this. Moderate Republicans are getting nervous about defending him, and the constant drumbeat of scandal is making it harder for Trump to govern effectively and get anything done. Think about it from Trump's perspective for just a second. You're trying to run the country. You're trying to implement your agenda and get your policies through. You're trying to deal with international crises and economic challenges and all the normal pressures of being president. But instead of focusing on that important work, you're spending your time dealing with lawyers, responding to congressional investigations, and watching your past catch up with you in the most public and humiliating way possible. This is why Trump's inner circle is in full panic mode right now, because they know how bad this looks. They know the optics are absolutely terrible. They know that every day this story stays in the headlines is another day Trump's presidency is derailed by controversy instead of focused on actual governance and leadership. Media coverage has been absolutely relentless on this story. And it's not just American media outlets doing the reporting. International news organizations are running with this story too. The BBC, Al Jazeera, Swiss media outlets, everyone's covering it from every possible angle. And that global attention means this isn't just a domestic political problem that Trump can contain or control. This is affecting how the world views Trump as a leader, and by extension, how the world views America and its political system. Some people are even asking if this could lead to impeachment proceedings against Trump. Probably not, to be honest. Republicans still control enough of Congress that impeachment is unlikely to go anywhere or result in actual removal from office. But the fact that the question is even being asked and discussed seriously shows just how serious this scandal has become in such a short time. Others are wondering if Trump could face state-level charges over this. Since Mar-a-Lago is in Florida, that's actually more realistic as a possibility. New York prosecutors have been aggressive in going after Trump on other matters. Florida authorities could potentially get involved since all of this allegedly happened in their jurisdiction. And federal prosecutors under a future administration could definitely reopen investigations if new evidence emerges or if witnesses decide to cooperate. The bottom line is this: Trump's Epstein problem isn't going away anytime soon. These 20,000 pages of documents are just the beginning of what's likely to come out. There are probably more revelations waiting in the wings. More witnesses will come forward once they see others speaking out. More evidence will surface as investigators keep digging. And every new development will keep this scandal in the headlines and in the public consciousness. For Trump, This really is a nightmare scenario playing out in real time. He can't make it disappear with a tweet or a press conference. He can't just declare victory and move on to the next thing. He can't dismiss it as fake news when there are thousands of pages of documentation. The evidence is too solid, the accusations are too serious, and the public interest is too high for this to just fade away quietly. So what should you take away from all this? Simple. We're watching a major scandal unfold in real time right before our eyes. We're seeing documents that were hidden for years finally come to light. We're hearing from witnesses who were silenced or too scared to speak before, and we're starting to understand just how deep Trump's connection to Epstein really went and what that might mean. This story is going to dominate headlines for a long time to come. It's going to shape Trump's presidency in ways we can't fully predict yet. It's going to influence how history remembers him decades from now, and it's going to raise uncomfortable questions about power, privilege, and accountability in America that won't have easy answers. Stay tuned because this is just getting started, and something tells me the worst revelations are yet to come.